This episode of Patriot Plates is proudly sponsored by Cornelia Park in Phoenix, Arizona, the premier purveyors of Mackenzie Childs and Juliska collections.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Being in the military is being a part of history. And with approximately 18 million veterans in the United States, each one has a story. I'm Major Scott Huesing, United States Marine Corps, retired. I had 10 deployments and led hundreds of combat missions. My company and I fought in some of the deadliest battles in Iraq. And I was fortunate enough to share those stories and honor the men and women who fought in my book, Echo and Ramadi. But most veterans don't get that chance. Welcome to Patriot Plates. Our producers have spent countless hours on the road searching for veteran license plates and the stories behind them. These veterans have firsthand accounts of what happened in our nation's missions, battles, and wars. Patriot Plates believes that all veterans should be able to tell their story.
I grew up in upstate New York in a suburb outside of Albany. I was actually homeschooled for a while. I did go to public school for a few years. I went to private schools, Christian schools, never the same school more than 2 years in a row. Did not get a high school diploma. Just started working at 15, 16. At 18, I went into another program that had sort of a military structure where it was a training program, but also an active search and rescue program. And I got certified as a EMT basic. It was a pretty good training program and really introduced me to the military life. At 19, I started college. I went to community college in New York and then transferred to get my 4-year degree at Arizona State. And it was while I was in college, 9/11 happened.
We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into...
So that kind of set me on a different path. I thought of myself as being too old. I'd missed the window to join the military. I talked to a recruiter. I actually just ran into a recruiter randomly at the mall, and he was on a smoke break as I was leaving and said, "Hey, you ever think about joining the Army?" And actually, I have. And so a few weeks later, it's May 1st, mission accomplished day. May 1st, 2003, I was raising my right hand, probably around the same time that President Bush was announcing the end of major combat operations in Iraq.
My fellow Americans, major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed. And now our coalition is engaged in securing and reconstructing that country.
If I could only leave one story behind, I think the most important stories to tell are those of the people who can't tell their own. It's the friends and the brothers that we lose, that they're not around to tell their own story anymore. And everyone has their own list of friends, brothers they've lost, and unfortunately that continues to grow after the military. Not everyone who's killed by the war dies during the war. The hardest, well, one of the hardest for me was the first close friend I lost in Iraq. It was my buddy Robbie, Robert Unruh, called him Robbie. When I got to Korea, there was a few guys there that showed me the ropes and kind of got me up to speed. And Robbie was one of those guys. He was a good guy. He was everything you'd look for in a soldier. He was very skilled at all the different vehicles that we operated in the assault and obstacle platoon I was in. We had a variety of vehicles, trucks, excavators. He was an AVLB operator, the Armored Vehicle Launch Bridge. And he was probably the best in country. Him and one other guy in the platoon were the best at operating those. We deployed from Korea to Iraq in summer 2004. Prior to the deployment, there was a lot of shuffling, cross-leveling. Some people that were non-deployable got moved out. We brought in some from other units, and Robbie ended up getting moved to a different platoon, same company, Bravo Company, 44th Engineers, but he moved the first platoon, so we didn't see each other as much. My other job was as a gunner on a Humvee. I ran into him one night at our outside the barracks that we're living in, these old Iraqi Army barracks. I got a chance to catch up with him. We chatted for 20, 30 minutes. And he was having a little bit of a rough time in first platoon. I mean, there were some good guys, but he missed being with us in A&O. That was had been his family for probably 2 years at that point. The next day, we had a company-sized mission. We were doing some, call them cordon and knock, cordon and search. We'd have different areas outside the city that we were going through searching. Some of it involved maybe knocking on doors. Sometimes it was kicking in doors. First platoon was set up at a intersection a little ways away from us. I was on the gun on a Humvee providing outside security while the rest of my squad went in and checked out a building. I was monitoring the radios. I had to report to our squad leader if anything was going on, and heard some gunfire down the road where first platoon was set up on an intersection. And a little bit after that, I heard over the radio, I think it was their platoon sergeant calling for medevac, and he sounded scared, and he actually said it was Unruh that had been shot. Nobody knew how bad he was hit. We didn't know really much of anything until we got back to our fob later, hours later after completing our mission for the day. We heard that he was put on a helicopter, sent to Balad for surgery, and he was stable when they put him on the bird. A couple hours after that, we had a company formation, and our CO told us that they had been unable to stop the bleeding. He was shot in the hip. There was some major damage, and they couldn't stabilize him, or they weren't able to save him, and we lost him. You don't know really how to handle it. The first time is tough, and I remember walking. I had to go to the motor pool for something, and I ran into a motor sergeant who hadn't been at the formation. He was working, and he said, "Oh, hey, how's Unruh doing? I heard he was stable when they shipped him out. Did you get any updates?" And I choked up, and I couldn't talk for a second, and then I finally just managed to sputter out, "He didn't make it." And I kind of cracked in that moment, and I couldn't say anything else. I was just, that it became real, like he was gone. I didn't know when I was talking to him the night before that was the last time I was ever going to see him. In a way, I'm thankful I was able to catch up with him. But you never know when that moment's the last time. You don't know when it's happening, that's it. And the next day, it's just gone. The day after that, we had another mission. You just put it out of your head. You don't have time to think about it. You just gotta go. The next day, we were rolling down some railroad tracks. I was on the gun on the Humvee. We stopped for some reason, vehicles in front and behind, and all of a sudden the front end of the Humvee blew up, and I remember thinking like everything went really slow motion. I was thinking, oh wow, this is it. Like our truck's getting blown up and I'm probably dying. All in whatever under a second that it takes for the front end of the truck to come up, and my face smashed into my weapon, busted my face up on the scope on my saw, and then I was unconscious. I woke up in the back of the truck, slumped down, bleeding all over beach. Another squad behind us came up, pulled me out of the truck. I was trying to pull off my vest and see if I had any other wounds. I remember trying to hold on to my weapon, which had come down with me. And I remember the first sergeant coming in, First Sergeant Shepard, which is probably the best name you could ever have for a first sergeant. He was a great NCO. I remember him coming in the back of the track and grabbing my hand, and as I was laying there and my face was bleeding everywhere, and it probably looked a lot worse than it was. And that was the first time I ever saw him look anxious. I remember him grabbing my hand and me trying to say through smashed up mouth, trying to tell him, "Top, I'm good. I'm okay." Because and I knew he was thinking we lost Unruh yesterday, and he's like, I can't lose 2 guys in 2 days. Had some injuries, but I feel like I got off lucky. They gave me a Purple Heart for that. In a lot of ways, I felt like I didn't do anything to deserve it. I got blown up, and then you see other people getting that same medal for losing legs, being burned. Look at guys like Kyle Carpenter or Omar Villa that are like, they paid a price. Like, their bodies are just a mess. And to get that same medal when I feel like I'm relatively fine. That happened in September. Robbie was killed on the 25th. I got blown up on the 26th. And then November 1st, we had a battalion formation where Colonel Mize, our battalion commander, shook my hand and said, "Hey, sorry, we don't actually have any of the physical medals on hand, but here's the award, the paperwork, and we'll get you when we get back." Ended up not getting when we got back. It was our unit got disbanded, and we were deactivated and reconstituted, and everybody went their separate ways, and I never got the physical medal. One of the hardest things to deal with that I know a lot of us who've been in these situations have struggled with is that feeling of almost randomness. We call it survivor's guilt. Why did someone die and why did I survive? It seems like it could have easily gone the other way. There's always that question of why didn't Robbie come home? Why did I? And why weren't our places reversed? And it's not, I don't think it's a question we can answer. It's hard to deal with, and there's been quite a few times that I wished our places were reversed. And it puts pressure on you in a way to think, I'm still alive, so I need to do something worthwhile with my life. I need to make the most of the time that I'm still here, because not all of us have that chance. If you believe in God and a higher power, then you hope there's a plan, there's a reason. But those are things that we can't know. And at some point, you just have to make peace with that we can't know. And we just have to go on and live our life and make the most of it and do something with it. Because for whatever the reasons are, not everyone gets to continue. Patriotism to me means believing in America and believing the concepts, the ideals that we were founded on. And for me, really enlisting and joining the military, I did it because I'm a true believer in America, in the way it was founded, on the concepts of individual liberty and individual responsibility. The two things that go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. And we're the only nation in history that was founded that way. So I think that's something worth preserving.
Don't miss our next veteran story on Patriot Plates. Get notified by liking and subscribing below. We want to thank our special sponsors, the Papago National Guard Base and the Arizona Military Museum, under the direction of Colonel Joe Abodili, who made this episode possible. I'm retired Major Scott Huesing, hoping that the next time you see a veteran plate, you'll think about the story and the sacrifice that went behind it. Thanks for watching Patriot Plates. One veteran, one story.
Cornelia Park, located in Phoenix, Arizona, has a long line of family service in the military. From an uncle getting shot down in Normandy to 47 bombing missions between three brothers in World War II, to a father aviator of the Fighting 103rd Jolly Rogers to Vietnam to career Navy. We are so grateful for this project to highlight our veterans.